Luke Castellan is a character from Percy Jackson and the Olympian series by Riordan, and in this video, I plan to break down his character and answer the question, was he a hero in the end? Before getting into it though, I'm going to be giving a spoiler warning for PJO and Heroes of Olympus, and with that, let's get started. So, generally speaking, I would say that a lot of fans have mixed opinions about Luke, because Luke was the main antagonist in this series, but he ended up sacrificing himself to save everyone, and through this one act, he fulfilled the line of the prophecy, which was, the hero's soul cursed blade shall reap. The hero being Luke, and the cursed blade being Annabeth's knife, which Luke used to kill himself. I would say that Luke is quite a controversial character, and if you either defend or hate on him, you'll get a lot of replies and comments because they either agree with you or disagree with you. A lot of people have told me that Luke was their least favorite character, and that despite sacrificing himself in the end, it didn't justify all his actions, because his actions led to countless deaths from both the good side and the bad side. However, there are people saying that Luke was a hero, and if it weren't for his sacrifice, Kronos would have killed Percy, Annabeth, and Grover and taken over Olympus. Some even say that Luke killed himself for his own cause and not to save everyone, and others say that Luke should be redeemed because he learned his lesson in the end. So overall, there are so many opinions, and the topic of him being a hero has been debated time and time again, and at this point, I don't think this question would be ever settled because people interpret the books differently, and this brings different insights and thoughts on Luke. So, what do I think of Luke? Thinking about Luke just fills me with so much emotions. There's anger, sadness, frustration, and most importantly, pity. I don't really like Luke as a character, and I'll admit it myself, I hated him throughout the first 4 books. It wasn't until the last book that I think differently of him, because in that book, we get to see his past and how his life slowly affected his life choices, and, of course, that sacrifice he made completely shook what I thought of him. I honestly didn't know what to think of him because, again, I hated him throughout the first 4 books, and what he did led to a lot of deaths, sacrifices, and near Olympus destruction. He was honestly a very frustrating character for me because, 1, he constantly betrayed Percy, Annabeth, and Grover along with Camp Half-Blood, and 2, he let his anger constantly overshadow his choices and thinking. So, now, let's break down his character, and let's start with all the bad things he's done in his life. First, him being the infamous lightning thief by stealing Zeus's Master Bolt and Hades' Helm of Darkness, which almost caused a civil war among the gods. Second, he tried to poison Percy with a scorpion from Tartarus. Third, poison Thalia's tree, which risked not only the safety of Camp Half-Blood, but Thalia's safety as well. Fourth, siding with the Titan Lord Kronos with the plan of overthrowing the Olympians. Fifth, nearly killing the main characters countless times. Sixth, tricking Annabeth, his childhood best friend and one of the only people in the world who actually cares about him, hold the literal weight of the sky that could kill her. Seventh, leading an army of monsters that almost destroyed Camp Half-Blood. Eighth, manipulated and persuaded demigods to his cause. And ninth, indirectly causing the death of the following people: Zoe Nightshade, Silena Beauregard, Michael Yu, Ethan Nakamura, Charles Beckendorf, Lee Fletcher, Bianca de Angelo, and countless mortals during the Battle of Manhattan. So, those are all the bad things Luke did, and looking at all that, you'd wonder what really fueled him and pushed him to do all that. And because of that, I'll talk about Luke's past. So, Luke was born to May Castellan and the Olympian god Hermes. They were a happy family for a few years, until May decided to become the host of the Oracle of Delphi, because she believed that she was no ordinary mortal, as she could see through the mist, which was a force that covers up anything supernatural to humans. When they reached Camp Half-Blood, May tried to become the host, but, unknown to anyone at the time, Hades had cursed the Oracle to never move on to another host, because of the death of his beloved Maria de Angelo. And because of this curse, May saw glimpses of the future, specifically Luke's fate and his ultimate sacrifice. She went insane and scared Luke so much that he ran away at the age of 9. So, let's analyze. Luke's mother was mentally unstable and so scary that Luke was forced to leave, and his father, an all-powerful Olympian god, was nowhere to be seen. And with that starting point in his life, Luke's childhood isn't the best, and this would slowly affect him as he aged. So moving forward, Luke eventually met Thalia Grace, and the two of them became very close friends. Close friends to the fact that it was implied that Luke had a bit of a crush towards Thalia, and Thalia feeling the same way. On one occasion, Luke and Thalia came across a goat, and that goat led them to a demigod son of Apollo named Hal. Hal was cursed by the gods because he saved the girl's life by looking into the future too much, and he gave Luke a celestial bronze knife. And that knife would play a very, very big role in Luke's later life, because not only is that knife the cursed blade in the prophecy, which Luke would later use to kill himself with, but also the symbolism of his promise that he, Annabeth, and Thalia were a family. And that promise will ultimately be the key and the only thing that Luke fought for until he killed himself. That promise was the only thing that made Luke fight back against Kronos' control and ultimately fulfill the prophecy. So yeah, the knife means a lot, and that's why it breaks my heart when I read the fact that Annabeth lost that knife when she and Percy fell into Tartarus. So going back to Luke's past, Luke's anger against the gods starts here. First, because he realized that his father was an all-powerful god who didn't seem to care about him, and second, he saw how the gods treated Hal through Hal's punishment. This anger would only begin to rise when Thalia, his best friend and close ally, suddenly gets turned into a tree by Zeus, and can't be seen or turned back in years until the second book, The Sea of Monsters. His anger boils up even more when he sees kids not getting claimed by their godly parents, and for Luke, it's as if they don't even care about their own kids. This feeling of anger is so much, in fact, that Kronos, who was at the pits of Tartarus itself, could feel it, and that's how Kronos decided to use that anger to fuel Luke into overthrowing the gods. He convinced Luke to join his side by promising a perfect world where all demigods would be claimed, the gods would visit more, and Annabeth, Thalia, and all his loved ones would always be safe. And with that bubbling anger inside him, Luke agrees and takes Kronos' bait. And that's why he did all those bad and terrible things. So, at this point, we've discussed both Luke's misdeeds and his past, which made him do all his misdeeds. And with all this in mind, let's answer the question, was he a hero in the end? At the start of the video, I've mentioned that this question is never settled by fans because people interpret the books differently, so I'm going to give my own opinion on this question. For me, Luke is not a hero. Luke is not a hero because, in my opinion, the things he's done is unforgivable. I'm not sure if I'm being biased because I hated him throughout the first 4 books, but I'm standing my ground. Luke is not a hero. Sure, he did the right thing in the end and saved everyone in the process, but in my opinion, that did not justify all his actions. Nor did his bad past did. Every demigod experiences bad parenting in their godly parent side, and even their mortal parent side, and I don't think Luke's past is an exception. In fact, I would even argue that Nico de Angelo experienced much more trauma, and even by the end of the Tower of Nero, Nico never sided with anyone evil. After all this kid's been through, he still fights for the good side, prevented a civil war from happening when he learned the existence of both Camp Haplet and Camp Jupiter, and has been through literal hell and back. But he's always there to fight for what's right, and that's why I love his character. I think Luke doing what he did is because of so much anger clouding his vision, and I think his plan of overthrowing the gods was some sort of revenge he wanted to give to Hermes, and not because he fully agreed with it. Another reason why I think Luke isn't the hero is the impact he gave to certain characters. There's both good impacts and bad impacts, so let's talk about the good part first. If there's one thing that happened after Luke's sacrifice that I really liked, it's when it came to the gods' attention to claim their kids, added with Percy making them promise on the River Styx to do it. Luke tells this to Percy before he died, saying, "Don't let it happen again." It referring to all those unclaimed demigods who live with not knowing who their godly parent is. And now, the negative side. I mentioned earlier that Luke is a great manipulator, and the impact he had to certain characters is just crazy. Whenever I think of this, I remember what he did to Silena Beauregard, how he charmed her into working for him as a spy in Camp Haplet, and even by threatening to kill her boyfriend Bekendorf. This is truly terrible, and we of course need to talk about its impact on Annabeth. In The Lightning Thief, Annabeth is seen to have a crush on Luke, and when he betrayed them, Annabeth still tried to see the good in him, to see the person she had always believed in and saw as a hero as a kid, only to see him constantly betray and trick everyone. We don't really see how Luke's death affected Annabeth from the first 3 books in the Heroes of Olympus series, but in the House of Hades, while she and Percy were drowning in the River of Pain, we see the river show glimpses of Luke's sacrifice, and we learn that Annabeth was sort of blaming herself for his death, thinking that there could have been another way around the prophecy, and she's even scared that Luke was one of the voices in the river. She felt so broken to the fact that she wanted to share his punishment, and Annabeth nearly does this until Percy intervenes. The impact that Luke had on both Silena and Annabeth is heartbreaking, and I don't know about you guys, but it makes me even angrier at him. The fact that Luke constantly betrayed, tried to kill, and endanger his own friends to side with Kronos is just beyond me, and with all this, I can conclude he is not a hero in my eyes. So how about you? What are your thoughts on Luke? Let me know in the comments down below.